what is motivating them. God can see into our heart, and He does know what is motivating us. In the Old Testament, early Old Testament, we have the story of the prophet Samuel looking for a new king of Israel. King Saul was in place, and he had turned away from the Lord, and so God instructed Samuel to go and find a new king. And where did Samuel go? He went to Bethlehem. And when he went to Bethlehem, where did he go? To Jesse's house. And when he went to Jesse's house, he said, I have come to anoint the king. Well, Jesse got all excited because his son was going to be the next king. And so he paraded his sons in. And Samuel said, he's not the one. He's not the one. He's not the one. He's not the one. And Samuel says to Jesse, do you have any other sons? Yeah, I have one. He's just a shepherd boy out in the fields. Call him in. So David comes in, gets himself presentable, comes into the presence of Samuel the prophet, and Samuel says, this is the one that God has anointed. And there is a passage of scripture there, and this is recorded in 1 Samuel chapter 16, that man looks on the outward appearance, but God looks on the heart. Only God can look into our hearts and knows what's truly taking place in our lives. God can look into the hearts of those who were building the temple. He can look into our hearts. Are we motivated by love? Are we motivated by the gospel? Are we motivated by doing that which is right by God? Or by seeking the ways of the world? Because to seek the ways of the world leads to destruction. Now give careful thought to this day on. Consider how things were before one stone was laid on another in the Lord's temple. Is there yet any seed left in the barn? Until now the vine and the fig tree, the pomegranate, and the olive tree have not borne fruit. From this day on I will bless you. And why is God going to bless them? Because they have made a priority in rebuilding the temple. God is saying, remember what it was like before one stone was put in place on the temple site. There was no blessing in the land. Because you have consecrated yourselves to build this temple, my blessing will be in the land. And again, the whole theology of the temple is very different than our theology of the church. There was one central place where God's Spirit dwelt. Thus it was for every Jew, at least one time during his or her life, to go to the temple during the Passover. It was understood that there were those Jews that lived great distances away, and it would be a great expense to travel to Jerusalem, but to at least once make a pilgrimage down to Jerusalem to the temple. And we know for a fact from the Gospels that at age 12, Mary and Joseph took Jesus to the temple for the Passover. And what happened then was absolutely astonishing. Apparently there was a great crowd, and after the Passover had been celebrated, Mary and Joseph and those who were with them began the journey back. And a couple of days out, they realized the boy's not with us. And they became frantic. as any parent would do, they went back and found their son, 12-year-old boy, sitting with the rabbis, teaching the rabbis. The temple was so important. So important. And it's kind of a funny story of my daughter. When we were first married and she was still quite young, and actually for a number of years, we would go to Cleveland every year. And the reason we would go to Cleveland is my wife's very best friend married a pastor. And he was pastoring in Cleveland, and so we would go up there. And at that time, they had 2 boys, a little bit older than Christina. So one day, we woke up, we couldn't find Christina. We're looking all over the house, going outside, and what had happened is she had rolled on the floor under one of the bunk beds. She was laying in underneath the bunk beds. I know what it is to be frantic trying to find your child. When she came out, she's like, "What's the fuss about?" We must not give in to the ways of the world and turn our back on God. Because we turn our back on His blessings. And that is to our detriment. That will in turn hurt us. Stay faithful to God. And that's what I've got today. Any questions, any comments? Got a few minutes to get ourselves ready for church.
This is not about church, but when you were saying build the wall, this is a joke.